All right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our first meeting of the year. It's great to see you all back again. So this evening, you've seen the agenda. We're going to have a talk from Brendan from the Water Demand Calculator, and also Steve White from AliAccess is joining us online all the way from the UK, along with Chris from Unidex. And then we have the innovation segments 1 and 2, and Mark and Nicola will be jumping up and saying a few words there. So I'd just like to begin by acknowledging everyone and saying thank you. It's, we can't do without you, especially our affiliate members. So thank you to you all, and also our corporate members, and to all our members, of course. And we've got a couple of special guests here today. So we've got Dean Crowe from Sydney Water. Are you here, Dean? Yeah. So Dean's here. So welcome. We've also got Rod Jackson and Mark Brown from Master Plumbers. Is that right? Are they here? Yeah. Here we go, right in the middle. So welcome, everyone. And also, we'd just like to sort of acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land at which we work, live, and learn, and pay our respects to elders past and present. All right, we'll get started with the committee report. So yesterday was World Plumbing Day, so happy World Plumbing Day, everybody. Hope you all celebrated it. So I personally started my career as a plumber. Are you sitting by yourself, Rod? I personally started my career as a plumber, and I was looking at a lot of posts that were online yesterday, and there's quite a few facts that I was looking at. It's just eye-opening. I think everyone knows about this, but I got a couple here that sort of just jumped out. I've got them online here. Sorry, on the screen. But it just kind of hit home as well that we're very lucky. I think where I come from, the UK, it's called public health engineers, and it's all about it's a public health. If we don't do what we do right, it's actually detrimental to everyone's health. So I just wanted to sort of touch upon that. In unusual style, Canberra's got World Plumbing Day on this Friday, but that's because they were off yesterday. It's a holiday yesterday, so there's a holiday in various states yesterday, but not in Sydney, not in New South Wales. So I don't know if anyone's here from Canberra or goes down to Canberra, but there's a couple of events happening there, and I'll leave that there just for a second if you want to scan it, just in case. But there's a couple of free events that you can come along to. So I'm actually in Canberra doing a course, and I'll be going along there in the afternoon for that. And we're also a sponsor of that as well. A little bit of sad news. I think we put a post out about Neil Walton, so we put that out on the email. It's very sad, and just wanted to put it up here. He's a great colleague, and all our thoughts are with his friends and family. So sad times. On the opposite side, congratulations to Kate Jennings. So I think everyone's familiar with Kate. She had her wee baby Georgia, and she was born on the 3rd of March. So congrats to her. On the same, we're starting to get this back again as well. So we're not expecting everyone to get up, but we just want to acknowledge that we've got new members, and want to celebrate that as well. So I can't really see that properly. We've got glasses on, but we've got Chapel, we've got Rick, Stuart, Shane, Andrew, and Santosh. So I think a few of them are here, so welcome. If this is your first time here, please reach out to some of the committee, and or reach out to anybody, just have a chat, and it's great to see you here, so thank you. Sorry? So member benefits. So I just wanted to, I can't really announce this properly yet, but we've got a couple of MOUs happening, and I really like this image. I don't know if you can see there. You can't see my mouse, but in the brackets there it says MOU, just in case you don't know what MOU stands for. But it's Memorandum of Understanding. So we've got 2 global organizations that we're going to be partnering with, which is just all. It's not means we're diluting ourselves or doing anything like that. It just means we're collaborating with them, and it's going to be a benefit to all of you. So watch this space. We'll be announcing that very soon. There's a couple of press releases coming out on that, so just hold the thought there, right? Standards Australia. So we've been talking to Standards. So we actually do a lot of work with Standards, obviously, and run committees. A lot of the guys, David Wood does a lot of work with the Standards, and we're very thankful for that. And a couple of other chaps are involved. But we've got an offer here where I know a lot of you people, a lot of hydraulic guys are smaller, not involved with big companies. And the cost of Standards is about $2,000, right? Just for like maybe 8 or 9 standards. And we've got an offer here where we can do it for $3,650 $365 a year to access the nine standards. And that's through the membership. So it's just an offer. So if you're interested in that, let us know. But what we probably will do is we'll probably do something and tag it along to the membership and make it nice and easy. So when we do the new memberships at the end of the year, in the financial year or start the financial year, it'll tie into that as well. So that'll be your usual membership plus 365 if you're interested. Industry news. So I'm not going to rattle all this off, but this is a few notes that got sent this afternoon from Paul, and he just wanted to sort of let you guys know what's happening. So I mean, you can all read that, but I mean, I'll just quickly speed read it. Initially, bedpan macerators were approved for secondary, tertiary treatment plants, and trials being carried out on the suspended solids. Results were found to be too high, and this has resulted in a change positions that are no longer accepted. So you should be aware of that. And Sydney Water will aim to provide information and clarity to the HCAA on any major disparities between our policies and the AS 5215 passive grease arrestor standards when it's released. A couple of other minor items that's not on there, or they are actually. Sydney Water don't permit open areas for commercial customers. Car wash, if permitted without a roof, becomes an industrial consent agreement. This is in relation to people using the Fox diversion valve or similar for external car wash bays. Sydney Water no longer allow this either. Commercial kitchen installed in childcare centres result in grease trap requirements, and the size is based on toddlers, not total children. So it's all about solid food eaters. And Sydney Water are going to do a presentation, probably the next one. That's right, yeah? Yeah. Yeah, so watch this space. And you're here tonight as well to talk about it, but so anyone's got concerns, just jump across there. So obviously we've got, Brendan's going to do a little bit of a presentation tonight on the water demand calculator, but we just want to quickly touch upon this, so just so everyone knows. So what we're doing is, we've got 4 meters, water meters, installed in the cold water service for apartment blocks, and that's been for 4 years. And what we're going to do is we're going to put on, and we've also got 1 hot water meter as well, and that's been 1 year. And what we're going to do is we're just going to complete that project. So we're going to buy 3 more meters, and we're going to run that project, or install the 3 meters in the missed apartments and leave them for 4 weeks just to get that data, and then that will complete that project. And then Brendan can take all that away, and we'll publish what we're going to do there. And then what we're going to do, that's in July, and then that's going to be for 4 weeks. And then in August, what we're going to do is we're going to relocate all of those 8 meters to 4 hospitals. So that's the next part of the project. So it's just getting bigger and better, and we're going to get real-time data on that. So just want to share that's the thoughts on there. Tonight, right now, is well, it's not right now, it's probably in about 20 minutes. But ICC, we've got a live event, and we've got speakers from Australia, Germany, New Zealand, and the United States. And one of the speakers is Tom, who incidentally is in Canada to make things even more complicated. So they're going to be talking about pretty much all the stuff that we've been doing about global pipe sizing and what happens in different countries. And so it'll be a very interesting thing, which clashes with tonight. So I don't think anybody will be tuning in for that. But I imagine it'll be recorded. Yeah. So we'll send a link out to that after. I just want to put this in here. So we spoke about this last time. So Tom Wise is rolling out the lecturing of the fire and hydraulics, hydraulic services training. He just did that up in Brisbane last week. And then you've got the dates there as well. So there's discounts for the HCAA as well, if you're interested in getting any of your juniors or grads or anything like that involved in there. Touched upon this last time, but newsletter is nearly there, and we've got a marketing person coming in to help us to do that, or help Emily to get that together. So we're going to start, like, instead of just hitting you with random emails everywhere, it's going to be all collated, and you'll be able to see it in one space. So it'll be really good for moving forward. We also went down to Launceston, I think it was early this month, and Ryan was there from Tassie. Tom and myself went down as well. And you can see the guy in the white shirt, that's Spencer. That's his name's Spencer Brown, and he hosts a show from America called America Plumber Stories, and with the aim of actually trying to get more people involved in the plumbing industry in America. It's a really bad, dire situation at the moment. And so they're on their 5th series, and I'll talk about that in a second. But you can see the people around the table. I don't know if anyone's familiar with the Tasmanian government, but we had people there from the Backflow Prevention Association of Australia, obviously the HCAA, Master Plumbers Association of Tasmania, the ICC, and various people from the Tasmanian government as well. So it's very worthwhile. It's all about ringing that bell and us being involved in industry organisations like that. I spoke about this a couple of times, but we've actually launched the new podcast as well. It's called Go With The Flow. And so that'll be coming out. It's probably going to be available in the next day or so. And it'll be everywhere. You can get it, you can download it. This one's only about 20-25 minutes. But this one was actually recorded in Tassie with Spencer Brown, who was just talking about. And we also had a plumber on there, and then Tom Roberts features in there too. So it's the start of things to come. And if anyone's interested in being involved in this, let us know, and we can make that happen. But it's all going to be like snippets, hot topics, anything that you can just listen to on the go when you're traveling on the bus or on the train or whatever on the way to work, or and it should be a hit. Alrighty, so some good news. We've got a big round of applause for Gul. Where's Gul? Gul's at the back there. So Gul's joined the committee. Congratulations. So I think everyone knows Gul. I'm not going to read all this out. Yeah, Gul's part of the committee now, which is rearing to go, aren't you? And very enthusiastic. So we're looking forward to working with Gul, and hopefully her passion will come through, and we'll get there. So I'm not going to read that. You all know Gul, so happy days. And then also, I think we announced this last time. So Matt stood down as the CPD manager, and Nick Moores stepped in. So Nick's on. I think he might be online just now. Not too sure if everyone's familiar with Nick, but Nick's based in Queensland, and Nick's. Oh, he's online. He is online. Yeah. And so Nick's been heavily involved with the HCAA for a long time, and he's been part of the committee as an affiliate. But what's really interesting about Nick is that he's you can see there he's written 3 CPDs for architects, but he's also been teaching the Cert 3 in plumbing, and he's written student workbooks, teacher presentations material. He's very, very all over the teaching side. But in addition to that, he's also completed his TAE Cert 4, and the teach training and assessment, the one that you just did, Rod, right? Yeah, so that's the one that you can start teaching the diploma. So congratulations to Nick, and Nick's already part of the committee anyway. But moving forward, we should be ramping up the CPD massively with Nick's help. And you can get in touch with Nick there on that email, or get in touch with Emily and myself. So this was last week. So Rod, Tom, and myself went up to the Gold Coast. And this was part of the Master Plumbers Queensland conference. So this was the Australian Plumbing and Gas Conference, and it was a 2-day, 2.5-day conference, wasn't it? And they had, it's actually brilliant. And probably some of the key takeaways we got from that was the presentations we do are excellent, and the technical subjects are excellent. But what they did at the very end of each session, they had 3 or 4 panelists, and it was just brilliant, don't you think, Rod? It was just the whole thing was just organized so well. And there was like we met up with various people. We brought up a few people up on this slide as well. But we'll send. We've been told the recordings going to be made available on YouTube, and so we'll send a link to that too. I think some of them were quite beneficial. I was quite interested in the one on hydrogen, and there was a bit of a debate on natural gas and hydrogen and pros and cons and whatnot. But yeah, so anyway, we'll send that link around, and it's all part of your CPD points as well, so get in there. So this is the one you've all been waiting for. So we've got to save the date. So you want to get your phones out. That dinosaur QR code thing that Em's produced. I don't know why there's a dinosaur in it. Yeah. So we're not going to hold a meeting in May in Sydney, but we will hold up the meetings in Tassie and in South Australia and Canberra. But we're going to concentrate on this meeting. It's going to be a celebration of our 5 years as the HCAA, but 50 years as an organisation. And we're holding it down at the Cruise Bar, and it's you know where the terminal is, where the big cruise ships come up. It's right there on the corner of the rocks and the Circular Quay. It's a fabulous place. Stephen, Matt, and Em's done a fabulous job organising that. So maybe give them a round of applause, because they've done a fantastic work there. And so that evening itself will be just a bit of fun. There's going to be a band, fingers crossed, that's locked in. Yeah, I think I seen them walking in earlier. That's going to be happening. We're also going to do a couple of awards as well. Which is, we'll have some fun awards, but we'll also have some real-time awards. It's going to be about people and projects. So it's all about celebrating. We used to do the rep of the year kind of award, but we want to try and sort of advance it a little bit better and make things a bit more organized. So it's going to be pretty good. So I don't know if everyone's had a chance to scan that. I'm going to talk just for one more minute. If you haven't had a chance, come and see us in the break and we can give it to you. But if you scan that, it's got a link that you can go and put it in your calendar. And we'll send out. So we're going to send out more information on this 1st of April, and then you can, yeah. Yeah. So we'll send a save the date tomorrow, and then you can get it into your calendars from there, and then we'll send the official invite out on the 1st of April. Alrighty. So in addition to our 50th anniversary, it's also Ream's 50th anniversary. And I'm going to invite Lorena to pop up. Are you going to both of you come up? Yeah. So they've got a few slides here just to describe what the day is all about. So over to you guys.
Okay, so we've got some pretty exciting news. This year is our 50th anniversary. So we've got a bigger and better event. We've released the dates. It's going to be on the 29th of October at Castle Hill. Not too many changes. We're probably going to start a little bit earlier. Everyone's welcome. So we've got some photos of some previous years. You can see people as 2015. Everyone's looking a bit younger. I did try and dig up some from, it was 1974, I believe, was the first one. However, I'm filling in for Josh tonight because he couldn't be with us, and I could not find any other photos, but I'm hoping that at this event I can dig out some really great photos from the past. So what are we up to now? Yeah, so these are just some photos. Last year, Aidan and I attended our first golf day.
Yeah, first time playing golf ever. So everyone is invited. It's a great day. There's really good food going on, and we should have some good prizes as well. So if you got any suggestions, just flood Lorena's email. I'm sure she'll love that.
I've bought my cards, so I'll probably pop one on each table before we go. I'm very proud to say that I had never played golf either, and I took out the horse's bottom trophy, which I was going to bring. But look, it was just such a great event, and not knowing how to play golf really didn't affect too many people other than some of our professional players that turned up, and we just let them overtake us.
And with there's the horse's bottom.
Oh yeah, that's a really great photo. So we'll definitely get the invites out earlier, but as I said, thank you so much for your support. We really look forward to having each and every one of you come along this year. It's just going to be a really special celebration.
Well, it'll be a really great day, so we look forward to seeing you.
And also, I don't know, you're on the naughty list. Yeah.
Paul threw one of our team members out of the buggy.
Yeah.
So just beware, if you are teamed up with him, just get your insurance.
Yeah,
we are not liable for any damages.
Okay, thank you guys.
Thanks,
we'll get our emails out soon.
Thank you. And we'll send out emails about that nearer the time as well. But what's the date again? It's October? 29th of October. Yeah, so there's a bit of planning on there. Alrighty, I'd like to invite Rodney to go up and give a little. Does he want Stephen as well, or is it just you? The two of you? Okay. All right, let's give a bit of applause for Rod to give a little bit of an update on the education.
Thank you, everyone. Look, education space, look, we are ticking over very well. Glad again to see a few of our students amongst us in our room, and I think I saw 2 student members pop up there as new members, which is awesome. Look, I think probably the biggest news for me is we've finally finished the build documents for the diploma. That started in 2018. A long time, very slow process. Had a few hiccups along the way in terms of getting people to help us write those documents, particularly with the sprinkler units, not to dump the sprinkler guys in it, but we had a lot of false starts with that. And look, it's finally done. QA is kind of happening now with TAFE for the final units, but look, we are there, and we'll send them an email sort of shortly, just saying, look, finally we are finished, which is excellent. Now it probably gets to that point where it's time to start reviewing them and go back to scratch and look at them all and say, all right, well, what can we do better? And I think, Paul Smith, you'd be super keen, right? Look, I say that because Paul's been an immense help through that whole process and ended up writing, I think, 5 units for us, which is amazing. It is one of those things, doing the teaching and being involved in that writing process, there's stuff there where once you teach it, you kind of go, oh, I'll probably do that a little bit differently and maybe write it a little bit differently. Certainly, I know a lot of the stuff that I wrote, I'd probably change a little bit. But we'll have a chat with TAFE and maybe figure out a new agreement over the coming 12 months, 24 months to sort of start having a look at that process. But I hope the students are getting a lot out of it at the moment. As every time I stand up here, I say, we need teachers. That is still probably the biggest fundamental problem. As Paul said, we had some time up in the Gold Coast. We spent some time, we talked to MPAQ. They're super keen to get their course going again in Queensland. We're talking to TAFE about whether there's any sort of resource sharing between the states. Apparently there's already a bit of a memorandum between TAFE New South Wales and TAFE Queensland. That's a bit out of our hands, but I think it would be good to get that happening purely in the fact that we still have a 200+ waiting list. TAFE have done a review of that list. They sent emails out to everyone on the list saying, hey, you're still keen? We know some of those people have been on there probably since about 2019. We thought a few of them probably would have by now gone, you know what, I'm going to go do something else with my life. I can't wait for this diploma forever. I think it dropped by about 6 people. So excellent to know that there's still a bunch of people in the industry that want to learn and do this course and get into our consultancy industry. The downside is we need consultants. You have to have the diploma to be able to teach. At this stage, you have to teach. I'm not saying anything new here. TAFE are looking at ways where they might be able to circumvent that a little, as long as we have 2 teachers in the room and one of those teachers has a TAE, the other one might be able to be labelled as a subject matter expert or something along those lines. I haven't got confirmation of that yet, but hoping if that was the case, it sort of felt over the last few years that getting that TAE was the sort of the stumbling block that might have prevented some of our consultants from taking on that. If that's the case and we can get that across the line, I'd love to talk to anyone that is keen to teach. If we don't get more teachers in this industry, that 200-person waiting list isn't going anywhere, right? We don't necessarily want to have them all qualified in 2 years, then we've got a saturated industry, but we need to probably be getting through more than the 30-ish every 2.5 years that we're doing. If we can't get those teachers happening, I don't know, it's going to be a very, very slow process and we're going to start losing people from the industry. You know, they may end up going to do a mechanical degree or a civil degree. Now, that's going to be quicker than waiting for this diploma, you know, which is a little embarrassing that we can't figure that out. I know a few people have said that's a TAFE problem. It's not a TAFE problem, it's an industry problem. TAFE can only draw people from the industry who hold a diploma to teach. So that's where it's at. We do need people to put their hand up and get involved. So if you have a little bit of time or you're close to retirement and you want to give back, or, you know, whatever situation you're in, if you feel like you can offer some teaching skills, then please contact me. Look, Gold Coast was great. We talked to Master Plumbers. I bumped into the HCAA president from New Zealand, had a good chat with him. We talked to the HCAA education, my peer in Queensland. I know we don't like to talk about that just in this room, but look, history aside, I think moving forward, we need to collaborate to some extent. Maybe not going to be best buds, but look, it's we need to be able to keep in contact with them and keep things moving. So we've asked Queensland for help with teachers, same as I'm asking New South Wales and anyone else across the country who's listening online. TAFE, happily looking at, you can teach via Teams. So you don't have to be instant learners to teach every Monday night. We'll make sure one person is there, the other person can be on Teams. I think that's probably about me. Oh, look, and please get involved with the REAM thing. I met with Josh 2 weeks ago and we sort of started spitballing some ideas. I'm really excited. I remember going to my first REAM day, working for Hughes Truman Ludlow back in the day with Grant Potter and Rob Gruber. And as a young guy who was into golf, I thought that was the best thing ever, that you get a day off to play golf. But I think one of the big things there, we do want to have a screen on the day that's just on a rotation of photos from years gone by, and over 50 years, hopefully we can get some cracker photos in there. I'm certainly going to look through more of my saved photos over the years. So if you have been and, you know, got some photos, or if you're someone from your team doing an air swing, send it through. We'd love to see it. All right. Thank you all. Thank you, Paul.
Thanks, Ron. Okay. One thing that we've been looking at as well is how we can make our events a little bit more appealing so everyone can see what's happening better. And something that I've been working on at work was a calendar. And so we're just looking at not only our events, but also what's happening with Master Plumbers, what's happening with the HCAA or with whoever it is, or CIVSI or any organizations, just having some sort of calendar. So we're looking to work that out on the website and also the newsletter as well. So I think there's a lot of people here that are affiliates who go around the national role, and it's probably a little bit helpful for them as well, planning moving forward. So that would be the long list. So that's what the point of this is. All right, so a little bit of fun around the bend. So we've got a couple of dodgy pictures here. Well, it's pretty reasonable, right? What do you reckon? Yeah. That's a real situation. I've actually seen this quite a few times. I'm sure a lot of people have as well. It's bizarre. I've no idea what's going on there. How do you use that, right? So, what's breakfast? What do you think was there first? It's bizarre. The wrong toilets. I think that's a washing machine. The one toilets and urinals. Look at that. This one's actually a real picture that I took in Queensland just last week. So we walked out of the hotel and we're waiting for Newport, and I was like, what the earth is going on there? I don't know if you can see, but there's like a ton of downpipes going into one downpipe, and then there's another, you can see the black, I don't know what's happening. It's just a mess. Wow, well, look at it. It's just bizarre. Crazy. It's mental, isn't it? All right, that's the end of the committee report. Everyone's had their first meal, yeah? All right, we're going to get everyone on their feet. It won't be an HCCA meeting without heads or tails, right? Everyone get on their feet, please. We'll rattle through this. We've got a couple of prizes, so you can select. How do you pronounce this? A compendium. Your life is not complete unless you've got a compendium. This is an HCAA compendium. Special. Alrighty, true or false? So it's heads or tails, yeah? Everyone knows how to play heads or tails. No cheating. Okay. If there's anyone sitting there after this, then it's going to be ridiculous. So the HCAA president, Paul Angus, who's me, began his career as a plumber. True or false? Heads. is true, tails is false. Is that a trick question? It's true. I said it at the start. Alrighty, the most recognized video game character in the world is a plumber. True or false? The most recognized video game character in the world is a plumber. It's true. It's Nintendo's Mario. Is anyone sitting down? We're good. Okay, the word plumber comes from the Latin word for lead, plumbum. True or false? It's true. Plumbum. You've got. All right, so we just celebrated World Plumbing Day, but believe it or not, there's a World Toilet Day. True or false? Is that a trick question? It's true. You look very confident there, Brendan. If you, for a bonus point, which day of the year is it celebrated? You know? No idea. November the 19th. Oh wow, we split the crowd up there, big style. Excellent. Alrighty. Great Britain's King George II died as a result of falling off the toilet. True or false? Are you covering both bases there? You can't. What is this? What's this? It's true. It occurred on October the 25th, 1760. How are we doing? Look at these. What's happening? Are you copying each other? Okay, still on toilets. On average, people spend 3 months of their life sitting on the toilet. True or false? Make a decision, true or false? Read. What? You got your hands in your pockets. What are you doing? It's false. It's actually 3 years. Can you believe that? All right. Who's still standing? 4 people? Yeah? Right. Okay, are you listening to this? So during the Desert Storm War, the military used toilet paper to help camouflage their tanks in Saudi Arabia. True or false? Let me say it again. During the Desert Storm War, the military used toilet paper to help camouflage their tanks in Saudi Arabia. It's true. You sit down, mate. Okay, still on toilet paper. In many societies, it is considered correct for people to use their left hand while using toilet paper. True or false? This is the longest one, but it's true. It says here, when meeting or eating with others, you're only to use your right hand. There is a toilet theme park in Seoul, South Korea. True or false? True or false, mate? Is this? It's true. We're down to 2. This is when I nearly run out of plumbing stuff. All right. Until modern times, pipes have always been made of metal. True or false? You want me to say it again? Until modern times, pipes have always been made of metal. Is that your choice? Yeah? It's false. So obviously, plumbers' pipes in the 1800s were made out of wood or made out of logs. Okay. The fire sprinkler was invented in 1864 by Henry Parmalee, who knew, to protect his piano factory. True or false? That sounds like it's a true story. You're both saying true. It's true. Wow, I'm impressed. Okay, no, but let's. True or false? When trying to invent a fire protection system, Sir William Congreve perforated a water pipe that ran along the ceiling with a valve that could be turned on from the outside. True or false? You're just copying each other, aren't you? It's true. Wow. Okay. Tomato seeds can go through the human digestive system, a sewer system, a wastewater treatment plant, and can still germinate. True or false? Tomato seed can go through the human digestive system, a sewer system, a wastewater treatment plant, and still germinate. You're both saying true. It's true. Well done. This is awesome. Oh no, well done. There we go. Now I had to start recycling. So you see if you were here. Before becoming the Prince of Darkness with rock group Black Sabbath, lead singer Ozzy Osbourne was an apprentice plumber. True or false? We're going to be here all night, guys. It's true. Okay, this is when I lost the plot and started going for other things. Alfred Hitchcock didn't have a belly button. True or false? Alfred Hitchcock, the movie maker, the director. Alfred Hitchcock did not have a belly button. Is that true or false? Ooh. It's actually true. Well done, Rod. Come down and get a prize, mate. Well done. Well done. Is that the first thing? Is that the first thing you ever won? Like, what would you like? Would you like this? It's like a folder you can put your notepad in. HCAA. Once it's good. What would you take, Rod? I think you can take a bottle of wine. Well done. Big round of applause for Rod. That was awesome. Oh, that was really long. Expected to do that. You've got no idea how long it takes to do that. It's all plumbing related. It's crazy. Okay, we're up for our first innovation segment. So we're going to invite Nicola Stone from ACO to come on down. Big round of applause for Nicola. Okay. You work this, yeah? Use this or not?
Thank you. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Just to quickly introduce myself. So I'm Nicola from ACO. I have taken over, I know most of you would know Kate Jennings, her role. And as was said earlier, she has had her baby girl last week. So congratulations to Kate. So I have worked with ACO over the last 2 years in an internal role and now out and about in replacing, or not replacing, but taking over Kate's area while she is on maternity leave. So today I'm here to talk to you about ACO's below ground grease separators. So let's get into it. So I'm going to keep this nice, short and sweet. It's only 5 minutes. We don't have time for questions, so I have placed my information on the last slide. So if you have any questions, feel free to take a photo and we can go back to it later. So in 2014, ACO released our grease traps. So above ground and below ground, they were a European product. They were quite popular thanks to the specifications from our hydraulic consultants and our key clients. With these, they were popular because of their cylindrical shape, as you can see up on the left-hand side for you. These fitted quite well when you have restricted areas within your project, in comparison to the traditional shape that you can see up there. It was a great success for us, and it was something that was growing within our company. And the only problem was that in 2020, when COVID hit, the container crisis hit, which means it was a bit harder for us to get our products over from Europe. And we needed to come up with an option, but also we were already in the talks and looking at giving a local supplier for our grease separators, as well as making it easier for us to access because it was a growing product for us. Just to take a look at different projects that this was integrated within. So first of all, we have Woolworths here at Merimbula. We also have our Roseland Shopping Centre. And you can see there's a few large grease traps underground within that. And finally, we have quite a large project within Marrickville. So the Marrickville Metro, this fitted with multiple of our large grease traps within that. So it was quite a successful product for us. And we wanted to keep growing on that. But as we said, unfortunately with COVID, this was something that we had to come up with a solution, and it was already in the works. So as of this year, we have released our new grease traps. It is locally manufactured in Emu Plains. These are made from corrosion-resistant polypropylene. With these, they are still the cylindrical shapes that some of you know and love. And it is available now if you wanted to start specifying that within your project. They come in a range of sizes, starting from 1,000 litres, working all the way up to 5,000 litres. And they do come with your risers and access covers as well. As these are just released, we are in the process of updating our website. So if anyone has any questions, as I said, at the end of this presentation, my details will be on the screen. So feel free to contact me. We're in the process of organising and updating and putting onto our website all of our specification sheets, as well as Revit files for you to be able to access to put on your specifications. And as we know, the new standard of AS 5215 will be released some point earlier this year. So as this is released, we will double check and make sure everything is up to standards and make sure this is all working towards the standards that will be. No, as the actual standard is released, yeah. So as the actual standard is released, we will double check and make sure everything is up to scratch and make sure we are as per the standard. This is all Sydney Water approved as well. So if that's something that you want to have a look at specifying on your project, please feel free to contact me and I can send you some additional information. As I said, unfortunately, there is no time for questions, but feel free to take a photo or get in contact with me and I will happily have a chat or come talk to you about these grease separators. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicola. That was awesome. Alrighty, we're going to jump straight into the next innovation segment. So I'm going to invite Mark up to the stage, and he's going to give a overview on what's happening in Galvin. So a big round of applause to Mark, please.
Oh, cool. I'm not really going to talk about Galvin engineering, but mainly about safety showers and eye washes and the standards. So, but first of all, I'd like to thank Paul and the team for allowing us to do this presentation tonight. But first of all, we're going to look at the watermark for complement 2020 as in regards to AS 4775, which is one to complement one to the other. So, but we'll look at that. Then we're going to look at floor waste in regards to safety showers and eye washes, and where they're located actually within the actual laboratory. And then we're going to look at tempered water as well, and where that's used, and probably in just a way around actually tempering the water for safety showers and eye washes. I'll just flick to this. So the actual watermark complement serves a specific purpose within the broader context of the product certification. So in this case, it aims to facilitate product certification in compliance with the Plumbing Code of Australia. So by issuing the watermark complement to the ABCB, it's essentially providing additional specification or criteria that needs to meet, well, they're met, but for products falling under AS 4775 to obtain certification. So this certification ensures that the emergency shower and eye washers and eye face wash equipment meet the required standards and can be legally installed in accordance with the Plumbing Code of Australia. So I'm just going to flick to the next slide, which probably we're looking at there. Well, I've already explained that context there, but if you look at the actual chart, you'll see how the Just going to move this away from my face a bit. You'll see how the actual type tests there relate. So you've got your complement standard, and then you've got your AS 4775 and how they synchronize together in correlation with one another to make a compliant. Just going to flick. So as you can see there, that's an SAO global standard. So you can see there it's got the AS 4775 on it. You've got a list of products, and that way you know the sort of like they're going to meet the actual standard and comply with that complement watermark. So a complement watermark is, I suppose, a bit like a watermark when you're not having a watermark, a Clayton's type setup. So we move over, and like Nicola, we've only got 5 minutes, so there's only a couple more slides to go. But you can do safety decon shower and need a floor waste. Well, the simple answer is no, it doesn't. But there are instances where you do use a floor waste. And if, well, I suppose if you're doing a government school or something, or a high school, they will request a floor waste, because one of the reasons why, I suppose, is that the kids can actually just pull it down and flood the lab whenever they want, sort of thing, if they get in there. So a floor waste can be installed in there, but it's always relevant to, probably for the contractor to meet with the EPA and just say, look, do we need a contamination pit or not? More than likely at high school you won't. They're not going to have biochemicals. They're not going to have dangerous chemicals within that school. More your PC2, 3 and 4 labs, you would look to the EPA then if they want to waste in there to say, look, we need a decontamination pit. Let's put one in, and then it's up to you guys to put that in your plumbing design accordingly, because we don't want dangerous chemicals going to the wastewater system. So tempered water, this is interesting because there is a standard for tempered water, and you can see there it's 15.6 to 37.8 is the optimum temperature, but it's mostly required in areas where the climate is, well, say it's very cold or very hot, because tempered water actually means, not to mansplain or that sort of stuff, but obviously if it's too cold or too hot, then obviously you're gonna have an issue. So safety showers and eye washes that are installed outside, for instance, ambulance bays, that sort of thing, open to the climate. Of course, if they're installed in snow climates where it's very, very cold, obviously you can get a shock from cold, and even worse, if you've got a hot temperature, say in Darwin or somewhere like that, where the temperature could be up high and you're treating someone with a burn, it's going to exacerbate that injury. So it's always one way around that, I suppose, is to use a TMV, a safety TMV that has a high flow, and obviously you can adjust the water temperature accordingly to meet that optimum temperature. The optimum temperature of that range in that standard has been tested to, it's a safe temperature to wash your eyes, to decontaminate. I'll just flip to the next one. Okay, so these standards here, to the personal decontamination standard, which is the 4775, which we've already spoken about. The safety and laboratory standard is an interesting one. It's very long, and so if you've ever got time to read it, you can. But what I've outlined underneath is some of the most important points. Stop open valve is a critical part. It's actually named in there as critical. Obviously, you've got to have water charged to the actual shower, safety eye wash at all times. It must, obviously, if there's an emergency, you need to have water to the actual unit. That's why there's no isolation within the reach to the inlet supply, because we don't want to isolate the water from the actual safety shower and eye wash in reach of people that can actually turn it off and on without the knowledge of, because it's got to be charged at all times. So we don't want that. The other important one, the obstruction, is within line. Obviously, that's common sense. You don't put a safety shower and eye wash in an obstruction area, so you need to be able to get to it quickly. And obviously, the flow is important for you guys to. The minimum flow rate is 75.7. So that's the actual minimum, not a maximum. So 25 millimetre potable supply of water. So that has been tested to say that 75 litres per minute, 0.7, is just enough water to decontaminate the body in one big fell swoop. And that's why it's at that standard. And obviously the location is very important. When you're talking to the architect and someone, you want that the unit actually within the laboratory, whether it be a lab that's PC 2, 3, or 4, or a school lab, it needs to be accessible. They need to be able to get to it. It's got to be within 10 seconds. You can't put it in a far corner out of the way because you think that's nice, the place to put it, or in a I think it was that one where they put it out. It was a TAFE. They put it outside. It was actually outside the mechanical area where they were, and I thought to myself, and I was there for a completely different reason. I thought, why the hell is it out there? It's miles away from where more than 10 seconds away from where it needs to be used. So it's got to be in that position. You've got something in your eye, you've got chemicals on you, you need to be flushed straight away. So it's important to probably talk to the architect because they'll want to hide it, especially if they're not used to doing schools, for instance. If they've just come into doing schools, they may want to just hide it into a corner or put it in a cupboard somewhere. So that's good. And last slide is just safety showers with alarm systems, which is a viable, which is a product that you can get to add on if required, and it's available back to BMS systems and that sort of thing. And that is it. Yep. Cool. So if you want to contact us, obviously we're out of time now, but yeah, if you want to make contact, yeah, just give us a call and you can arrange any questions you have. Thank you.
Thank you. I forgot to mention when we're looking at calendar events, so we're actually going to trial, or we're not trialing, we're going to run with doing a meeting out in Parramatta. And is Leon here? There's Leon there. So Leon will need your support. All the affiliates in the room, Leon will be looking for your support. And also Sean, where's Sean? Your hand up. So Sean's going to be running a meeting up in Newcastle as well. And so the date's not been set yet. We're just deciding how we're going to do this. But the Sydney meetings will still run in the same sequence, but these will run independently of them as well. So and we'll get the full supporters committee in and whatnot. But yeah, so reach out to Leon and Sean, and we'll make that happen. So that's been like sort of planning in the for a long time. Alrighty, we're going to get past that. I've jumped up a little bit ahead, but I had a slide. It's not there now, but it's an icebreaker. So just before the food comes out, just maybe everyone can get up and mingle and introduce yourself as well, especially if you're a new member, if you've not been here before. But just with the World Plumbing Day, I just wanted to sort of, if everyone can just get up on their feet, have a chat to someone. Why did you come into the industry? Why are you part of the plumbing industry? Or why are you part of the fire industry? Or what brought you to the industry? And just have a chat about that before the main meal comes out, and then we'll get started again when Brendan will come and do his presentation. She's got 5 minutes or so. So everyone get their feet. Say hello to someone, it's icebreaker, someone you've not spoken to before. Come on. Alrighty, we're gonna wind that up. So dinner's being served now, so you wanna get back in your seats. You can start munching away. Yeah. We're gonna get like testimonials and stuff and do a picture.
So I'm just finding something.
Alrighty, so food is being served, so while you're having food, Brendan Josie is going to come up and give us a rundown on the water demand calculator, so please give a big round of applause to Brendan Josie.
No, thank you. Thank you very much. So yeah, thanks for having me here tonight. I think it's been probably a little bit over a year since the last time I came and presented. I think it might have been November 2022 was the last time I was here. So yeah, it's good to be able to pop in and see some familiar faces and meet some new faces at the same time as well. So tonight it'll be sort of I guess, two-part presentation. So we'll give a quick research update on where we're at with the water demand data. And then I'll give a quick overview of our newly developed water demand calculator. So that's probably the HCAA's first big step towards, I guess, solving the issue. A few years ago, we identified there was a big gap between what the consultants are designing to, and then what we're actually seeing in the monitored demand patterns, especially in the residential space. And we can probably hazard a guess that filters over into other building types, the commercial and healthcare, etc. So that's where we're looking to go towards next. So I'll move on. So for those that don't know me, my name is Brendan Josie. I'm a PhD candidate at Deakin University. We're located down in Victoria, in Geelong. So I'm in my final year. I've got about 4 months of the PhD left, and that'll really wrap up. So on the home stretch. And then there is also my supervisor, Dr. James Gong. He's a lecturer at Deakin, and he specialises in sort of pipeline condition assessment, pressure and transient monitoring. And so he's been a pretty big support in getting this project up and running in the first place and developing the relationship, but also trying to further this project into bigger and better things going forward. And then again, just a big thanks to the HCAA and the Australian Building Code Board for their support throughout the project for the last 3 years. So we'll do a quick recap on the cold water. So based on the current Australian standards, we've got 4 buildings, two in Canberra, 2 in Sydney, ranging from 115 to 330 apartments, and around 900 to 3,000 fixtures. The red bars there represent the peak flow of the PSD using the Australian standard. And the yellow and green bars represent what we've monitored for the last 3 years, essentially. So we can see there's a pretty big gap there between what we designed to and what we're actually observing. For anyone interested, the occupancy levels are around about 85 to 90% at the time of monitoring. So there's only the one building there, Braddon, that we couldn't confirm the occupancy on, but we believe that the occupancy levels were pretty high in these buildings, so it was pretty normal water use. So to sum it up, the Australian standard overestimates cold water demands in the residential space by about 3.5 to 4.5 times. To put that into perspective, for 3 of the sites, you could go from 100 mil pipe down to a 40 mil pipe servicing the mains. And then for the Manhattan site, you go to a 50 mil pipe. So for those maybe are not in tune with the implications of oversizing, the obvious one is cost. There's a pretty big opportunity there from a pipe material and embodied energy. The oversizing will also contribute to some elevated energy consumption, particularly around the heat loss. A larger pipe in a heated water system typically has more heat loss. You may argue that the circulatory systems cover that heat loss anyway, just through the flow rate, but there still seems to be some evidence at this point in time that a smaller system will still not lose as much. As we're walking or going further down the line of the research too, pump inefficiencies is a huge impactor in terms of the oversized system. Can't release anything just yet. Still doing some analysis, but it'll be, I think, pretty shocking to sort of see after we've crunched the numbers, and there's a big gap there from a pump performance perspective. The other thing too, we've got potential for reduced water quality and increased water age. Because we have larger pipes, they maintain or hold a larger volume of water, so it takes longer or more water to flush that pipe completely. So if we look at the chart to the right here, the top in the blue is the water demand for the same building, and then down the bottom there we've got the water age in the same pipe. The one pipe's been resized to what we think it should be, and we can see the relative water age has been almost cut in half. Just bear in mind that that is the relative water age, so that's assuming that it's 0 hours old entering the building, so it could already be sort of 24, 48, 72 hours old when it enters the building, so that actual percentage isn't as big of an increase. But when we look at the relative water age, there's a pretty big opportunity there to reduce that. The other thing too, from in terms of self-cleansing and actually just looking after and promoting better water quality through the network, so suspended solids and just enough actual frictional forces on the pipe wall. If we have oversized pipes, we actually can't generate enough force at the pipe wall to move these solids along throughout the system. This is also the same for any buildup of entrained air. We need a certain amount of velocity to actually promote that to move along, for horizontal pipes, that is. So, and then the other one too, for any valve guys or women in the room, we know that generally they like to operate within an intended range or a design range, and at the moment they don't get there, or they never actually operate in their intended range, which promotes poor performance. We're also looking on the flip side of it too for the unintended consequences. So we fix one problem, but what happens if we then reduce the size? Do we introduce new ones? So at the moment, we know now that our pipes may be at the right size or the intended size that we're designing to. So our actual velocities are operating at the intended rate, and now they're actually elevated. So we may need to have a further consideration going forward for noise, where previously this wasn't really a thing because it was always masked by the oversizing. Similar again for erosion corrosion. Why there's always that consideration there in a design. It's always been masked by the oversized systems, so it may not be as prevalent, or it may show its face in a different form. The other one too is the potential for elevated pump energy. This one here is probably, the slide's a little bit outdated based on my new understanding. So you will, when you go to a smaller pipe, you will increase the head loss throughout your system. But the work that we've been looking at so far sort of tends to lean that there's far more opportunities gained by actually going down a pipe, going down pipe size, selecting the right size pump, and that will offset any sort of increase to head loss throughout your system. The biggest one will be is maybe you might see greater pressure drops through your water service lines, and you need to be mindful what might happen at peak times, say for comfort of showers or specific fixtures when you need to, I guess, maintain a certain performance standard, whether it's pressure or flow. And the other one on the flip side of that too is a smaller pipe will see a greater variation in pressure loss. So your system will fluctuate from its peak to low pressure. That distance will be much larger. So there may be some implications there for fatigue, expanding, contracting, particularly around plastic pipes, those sort of systems. So there's sort of things to maybe keep in mind. And the other one too is water hammer, and any potential for a pressure spike or burst, that sort of stuff too. So the chart on the right there is just showing it's a basic water hammer event for your toilet. So we can see at sort of the top chart there, it sort of zooms in on what actually happens at really rapidly. As you can see, it's only over several seconds, but the pressure goes up and down quite rapidly, and there's a momentary spike there that's probably almost sort of 200 kPa from static. On the, I guess the secondary part of the water demand project, as Paul mentioned earlier, we'd purchased a hot water meter as well to go on one of the buildings. So we've got a cold water and a hot water meter on a Milson's Point building just around the corner here. That's got 123 apartments there, and we're monitoring the two simultaneously to try and determine the relationship when the peak flows between cold and hot and all that sort of line up. Sort of some prelim analysis at this point in time. We've got the design peaks based on the Australian standards. We've got the observed maximums for both the hot and the cold systems for this building. Bear in mind, this is the maximum. And then if we look at the next, this value here represents 99% of values observed. And then if we break it down a little bit further again into a bar chart of the relative frequency of actual flow rates separated into sort of 0.2 litres per second, you can see predominantly these buildings spend a lot of time at a low flow, and a peak rarely occurs. Really further, I guess, highlighting the implications of oversizing, that there's some room there to not only reduce the size, but maybe rethink how we design our systems. And so just to reiterate, the average flow rate for the cold water is 0.5 litres per second, and for the hot water, that's 0.27. And I should preface too, on the hot water, I've taken the circulatory rate out. So it's probably about, I think it was 0.2 litres per second for this building. So it's just to normalise off the and take the true demand from the building. So that's a bit of a wrap up there from the water demand side of things. As Paul mentioned, we've gone and purchased some more meters. So the rest of the buildings that have the cold water, we'll go and slap on some hot water meters, get the data there and try and wrap that up. And then we've got some pretty big, or a lot of water use data, which the consultants can potentially use for performance solutions or evidence. So if anyone wants some further insights into that stuff, there are some papers on it, but also feel free to get in contact. I can give you some spreadsheets or some simple charts, that sort of stuff, and help out with that as well. And then once the residential side of things are sort of ticked off, as Paul mentioned, we'll be moving into, try and move into the hospital space. So I guess the other thing too is a call to arms. If anybody knows of a potential place that might be willing to allow us access to put the meters on, they might be interested, or you could maybe pitch it to them. It might be interesting to understand what their water usage, where they might be, consuming too much energy or something like that. There's some insights that we can pull from there. So it's a sort of, we'll scratch your back and that sort of scenario. And then after that, we now have the residential cold water 99th percentile demand calculator. So this is the first step into solving the overestimation problem in the residential space. So there's the link there. And then also, if you scan the QR code, I'm not sure if we'll get a copy or this will be sent out to the members. But again, I think there's an email probably a month or two ago as well with a link. If those haven't if anyone actually hasn't been there to go and check it out and have a play around. So we'll jump in with some scary maths. It's this is the basis of what happens, and this is why we developed the calculator, because it takes away all the thinking for you guys. You can basically just come up there, punch some numbers in, and it'll spit out their answer for you. But I'll give you some insight so that at least when you go to someone, you can pretend you know what you're saying. Really, here there's only three main parameters that you really care about, and that's the number of fixtures, the flow rate for each fixture, and the probability of use, or how frequently it will be used during the peak hour of water consumption. So the benefits to this formula, outside of say the loading units approach, for example, so this formula is internationally recognized. So this same formula actually features in the IAPMO's water demand calculator. So it's got a track record, it's got a few runs on the board already. It's got tangible parameters, so there's no magical wishy-washy fixture or loading units that are rated off another fixture and then compounding that. It takes in physical parameters for each fixture. It also considers low use or stagnation. So when you have smaller buildings, you spend a lot of time at intermittent or no flow. So this formula actually has a provision for that too. So it doesn't just assume that you're always wanting to use water, and there is a point of time where your building actually doesn't use any water. It also is able to capture the variation in different fixture use characteristics. So during your peak hour for a residential space, your shower will have the lay of the land and take up most of the water consumption. So for those that look at the formulas and maybe some of the values that the calculator spits out, they'll realize these probability values are higher for those sort of fixtures, whereas other things like the dishwasher in the morning may not be used as prevalent, so it's actually sort of tucked away and has less of an impact to the actual load on the system. And the other upside too is this has flexibility, so it's a good foundation to be applied to other building types, or if things change over time, new technologies developed, it makes it much easier to sort of adapt once the data becomes available on the usage characteristics. So as I mentioned before, there's three key parameters. Two are easy. It's basically summing up how many fixtures you have and understanding the flow rate of said fixtures. The hard one can be the probability of fixture use. It has some funny nuances. So because of the increased randomness of water use, as your building grows, the actual probability of use decreases. So you're less likely to have people synchronized at once using the water. But then also the amount of people you have in your building then also impact that as well. So that can cause that to either go up or down based on that. So the probability formulas were developed keep these two sort of considerations between your building size and how many occupants are actually in the building. So as an example, for the chart there, we can see that at the bottom, that's the probability of use for a shower, assuming one occupant per apartment. But we can see that elevated line is the probability of usage for a shower, considering if there was 4 people per apartment. So it sort of elevates and goes up on a scale based on the number of apartments and people. So a little bit of a breakdown on the formulas. There's 2 steps, as you might have guessed. The first one is to determine the baseline probability. So that just considers what it would be for one person per apartment, and it just follows the bottom line. And then until you get to the intersect point of, okay, we've got 5 apartments, here's our baseline. And then we look at, okay, how much do we need to increase this to compensate for how many people are actually in the building? So that's where the occupancy comes in. And then for each occupant, you can sort of see that step up the ladder. That amounts to the probability, and you'll see why this changes. And that's sort of a nuanced relationship. It's not a fixed relationship in terms of building size and occupancy. In the next slide, you'll sort of see what happens once we go back. I'll get there eventually. But to sort of go through and how we determined the probability values. So we've gone through and looked at Australian residential end use studies. So we've taken data from Australian homes, and we've taken the 5 most comprehensive across the country from 2012 to 2018. We've looked at the frequency of use for each fixture, the intensity or the flow rate that they impose, the duration, and the time of use throughout the day. And then we've gone through and we've compiled them all together to develop relationships that can be, represented as a probability or distribution. And then they're put into these characteristics, then put into our water demand model that we've developed. It considers X amount of buildings within, or X amount of apartments within a building. And then for each user, we go through and we simulate how many times they might shower in the day, how many times they might use a tap or go to the toilet. And then after X amount of simulations, we come to our figures, and we've developed the formula based on the statistical analysis. So going back to where I was before about that relationship, you can see that this is the probability for a fixture for different building sizes. So if we have just a single apartment, the blue line here, single apartment, and then we go to add an extra user, these crosses represent the probability of use for an extra person. We can see that it goes upwards in a more trajectory, but as we sort of add more apartments to the building, we can see these lines sort of flatten out. So each person has less of an impact as your building size grows. To come full circle back to the calculator and its performance. So we've benchmarked it against the buildings that we've been monitoring for the last couple of years as well. So we've put there I guess what we call the verification method, and we've compared it to Barry Smith's book as well as the Australian Standard. So we can see that the blue and the green, they're sort of what we're aiming to try, or the blue is what we're trying to aim to, and the green's where we're at. So we can see we're sort of working our way up, and we've got a little bit of room there to play with in terms of estimating the 99th for these 4 buildings. So we've got pretty good performance and coming down to what we've observed. There's still some room there for the designers to sort of have some confidence and go, okay, we're not going to push the boundaries or the thresholds too much at this point in time. So here's just a list of the work we've done to date. Most of this is on the website, the water demand website. So if you want anything there, if you have any questions or want to know any more information, the door's always open. So feel free to send me an email or even get in touch with the HCAA inquiries. Em's pretty good at handballing across to me, and we can go from there. And that's about it from me. So if we've got any questions, feel free to put your hand up, but other than that.
Alrighty, going over.
Thanks for that. So I suppose my question is, the closest we can compare this is to the DIN standard. So we notice, like we've done on H2X, that the risers are a lot smaller. The risers are smaller, but the feed pipes to each unit are bigger. Like, how do you compare, like, your calcs that you've done a lot different to like the DIN standard, like in comparison? There's a bit of discrepancy between yourself and the DIN.
In terms of, so the risers for the HCAA will be smaller, but I guess the branch pipes will be larger.
Yeah, correct.
So that's again to do with the relationship of the water use and the increased randomness. So as far as I know, look, I can't speak for it in too much detail. I haven't gone through and done too many case studies, but that's just through, I guess, the performance or the nuance to how this formula works. I know the DIN's gone and done a heap of water monitoring and then fitted some curves and that sort of stuff. So maybe that's where there's some differences in how our methodology. But that's basically, you'll see a higher probability of use at a smaller domain or a smaller area, as opposed to a larger, or a pipe that's servicing a larger, I guess, population. So I think that's where you'll see the differences. So yeah, it's not to say that either wrong or right. It's just the nuance of the actual performance of the formulas themselves.
Cool, thanks.
Okay. Look, firstly, well done. Very impressed with what you've done and the presentation that you've given. I love that you bring up formulas like that and then talk to this group and say, as you would expect, thinking that anyone in this room has any idea what the answer is going to be from that.
That's okay. That's noted. I'll keep that. Yeah.
It's, you know,
I'm lifting everybody up, right? Yeah.
So, look, love what you're doing. A couple of things. The water hammer that you mentioned, is that
Yep.
the one that's your little side project, or is that coming off the master meter at the front?
That's a little side project at the moment. So we've got a few pressure sensors just sitting in just the normal home.
Yeah.
That side of things.
The reason I say that for everyone else in the room, I met with Brandon probably about a year ago when
Yep.
he last came out. And he sort of mentioned to me that in addition to what we've asked him to do, he's kind of doing these little side projects on his own back. And I think we all should commend him for being.
I should preface there's a motive and there's other opportunities to explore, but
It's
yeah.
something they can share.
But you can probably blame Tom Wise and Nick Soden and those guys for maybe having some influence and
Yeah, exactly.
it's sort of it's filtering over, unfortunately.
My main question was, when you talk about the hospitals that you're looking to value target next, is there a particular size? I know when we started looking for resi buildings, we're looking for a bit of a bracket, we're
Yep.
looking for a number of beds. But if people have worked on hospitals in the last 12 months, I assume that you're occupied by now, or
Yep.
12 months prior to that even.
Mhm.
What size range are you
I
looking
think
at?
the occupancy would be making sure it's up to nearly full occupancy. That would be the main purpose. Any size, I don't think would be not too fussy on. If it can be a smaller, larger, I mean, the wider the spread, I guess the more validation we have, or we can begin to determine relationships of what happens. So, there's no, if someone thinks or knows of a project, then go for it.
And so it has been hard to find projects in us, so. No.
Brendan, thanks. Good preso of it.
Thank you.
Quick one. What was the interval, the timing interval of the metering, of data logging?
So for the cold water, that's at 1 minute. So the original cold water values have actually compensated for that, because we realized doing a bit more number crunching that was actually too far of a spread to actually capture when someone uses a tap or when someone flushes a toilet. So we've learned from that now, and the hot water is actually logged at every 5 seconds. And then going forward, we're going to turn it right up, and it'll be probably every 5 seconds. But for those buildings, they're at a minute. That gives us the opportunity to actually log them for long term. So we've nearly got 3 years worth of data for one of the buildings. For getting any sort of dropouts, batteries, loss of signal, those sort of things. But because we probably noticed maybe a 20% discrepancy between a minute flow rate and then if you actually that instantaneous flow rate. So those values have actually been compensated for that, just to handle that.
Thanks. Congratulations on your presentation. Very, very interesting.
Thank you.
Dropping pipe sizes and increasing velocities on hot water flow and return.
No, so I should preface that I'm not increasing velocities. It's just the actual velocity will increase through the behavior of the system. So I'm not suggesting lift up from what we designed to. It's just that when we pick a more accurate peak flow, the velocity is going to be closer to what we actually intend them to be. So I've been caught out before with that. So just sorry before I jump in front of you.
Oh, another question. Well, a couple more questions. So if everyone walking over here, if everyone can reach under their chairs, under your chair is a piece of paper. We're going to do a worked example of that equation.
Hey, Brendan, great presentation. How were the velocities observed and monitored in the buildings?
For us, it was just here's an assumed pipe size, here's our flow rate, and just did from that equation or from your velocity equation.
At the meter itself?
Yeah, so the meter themselves were monitoring the main cold water coming in. So we knew the size of that pipe, so we just went back. So it wasn't actually, we weren't measuring well, technically you are measuring velocity with the ultrasonic flow meter, and then it's converted back to a flow rate. So there's an assumption there that we know the internal diameter of the pipe. So
Thanks.
is that clear? Yeah.
Well, I'm walking over here. How's the research and publications you've been doing? How's that perceived in the industry and also with your academic peers?
It's an eye-opening experience. You can have one person say, "Yep, this is really good paper," and then you have the next person say, "No, this is garbage." So it's a peer review process. There's no real structure to it, and you sort of bringing in international experts in a certain field. So yeah, it's been a really I guess a humbling experience. You put all this time and effort into something, you think you've written something really nice, and it comes back with some academics are brutal. They don't sugarcoat it like industry. They try and tiptoe around a little bit. Academics just say, no, not good. So but it's yeah, you develop a thick skin, and you learn that's what's part of the game, and keep moving forward, and hopefully get a bit better the next time.
Has any testing been done in conjunction with special events? For instance, I did a lot of my early time in the forces and that, and obviously they've got a parade in the morning. They're all got to be up and showered and on the you know, out in the field by 7 a.m. So there's literally 1,000 people all jumping up and having their showers for that type of thing. They have obviously special events where other countries come over, they all stay at one hotel, they're all doing that same type of thing. Obviously that's going to have a big impact on the type of thing you're doing if there's no special events going on, where a lot of people, even like World Cup events and stuff like that, or Olympics and stuff like that, where
I think
you get a lot of people from one country all
NRL or AFL grand finals are a really good example. If you look at, say, Sydney Water, I know they've done a couple of posts about the toilet factor, and they've actually rated the game, how interesting it is based on the demand of the toilets at halftime. So look, we haven't delved that deep with into sort of looking at if there's any sort of key events, or like a certain time or a certain day. So yeah, there's plenty of data there for
a lot of the bases that I've been to, like where plumbers have problems in that, and all the copper tubes that are there are just paper thin because the velocities never beating that out. So I think while it might work in some hotels and that
that's exactly right. So yeah, residential is a different animal to defence, and that's the nuanced approach you get to take.
With special events, if you've got events going on where, you know, the Brazilians are coming out for a soccer game, and they all rent out the same hotel, and it's all buses going at the same time, you know, roughly the same time, the peaks can be a lot higher. But what obviously happens then too, you have smaller piping, your velocities go up, none of your TMVs can handle it, because few people turn off the water, and your peaks obviously double the velocity, and you're close to 4 times the friction loss. And it makes a massive difference. Those fluctuations, TMVs are jumping all over the place and can't handle it, and there's potentially a lot of problems that can come along with that type of thing. It might work 99% of the time, but that other percent of the time,
that's the juggling act that you guys get to play.
Some good questions. Any more questions? Alrighty, we'll wrap that up. So thank you very much. Put your hands together for Brandon. Thank you. Before we jump into our next preso, we'll just take a quick 5-minute break so everyone can go to the toilet and whatnot. And then we'll jump straight back in. So 5 minutes. And there's an icebreaker question. That's great. Anyway, get up on your feet, do a little bit of mingling, get out there. The show must go on. Chris here? You here? Okay, I'm going to invite Chris Bertelli, and also Steve White is going to be joining Chris in a joint presentation. Steve's joining from the UK online, so I'm going to hand you over. Chris, a big round of applause for Steve and Chris.
Yeah. Are you here, Steve?
I'm here, yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, so everyone can hear you, but they can't see you. Only people online can see you. Lucky people online. Firstly, I'd just like to say thank you, Paul, and big thank you to Emily and Tom, who's helped facilitate the presentation here today. As the slide suggests, my colleague from Ali Access, Steve White, will be presenting the new proposal of system commissioning testings in high-rise buildings, DWV systems with a focus on RVAS. Some people don't know, Vinidex is owned by a company called Ali Access. Ali Access is a global powerhouse in the plumbing space, similarly to what Vinidex is in Australia. Ali Access is globally. And one of the big benefits of that is we get access to people like Steve and facilities like Steve is going to present. And I won't give too much away. I've actually got the best job here tonight because technically I'm presenting, but Steve's doing all the work. So I'm a bit like the magician's sidekick here. So I'll just sit here and look pretty. And Steve, I'll let you take it away, mate. You just tell me when you want me to change slides, and I'll do my best not to let you down.
Yeah, don't worry, we'll work it out. Thanks all. So what I'm talking today about is following from some work from the drainage research group at Heriot Watt, where they've been doing a review of all the codes and standards around the world, whether it's the International Plumbing Code, the Uniform Plumbing Code, the EN standards, the AS3500, for example, on high-rise drainage systems, and seeing we've got guidance in the codes and seeing what they actually mean. So if we go to the next slide. And the next one, they don't know about us. Let's draw one more. So this research has been ongoing for the last 4 years, looking at this, and there have been 20 journal papers, 12 of them peer-reviewed, looking at high-rise buildings. So what is a high-rise building in drainage terms? In essence, anything over 34 meters or 10 stories. Anything below that is not really what we've been looking at as high-rise, and how a drainage waste and vent system operates. And that's whether that's a primary vented system, a secondary vented modified one pipe system, a fully vented system, an active vented system, revas, spiral pipe systems are out there, new innovations, link vents. So basically 3 pipe systems that we see in India and the Middle East, how they actually work and how they actually work with the loadings within the buildings and the guidance within the standards. And the interesting thing that we found is that none of the standards have the data for anything taller than 10 stories. So if we look at where I'm from in the UK and in Europe through the EN 12056, the highest data that we've got tested for empirical data was carried out in the 1960s through to the 1970s, and it was only ever tested below to 10 floors. So we are designing in the UK 50-story buildings, 40-story buildings, very similar to what you have in Australia, but the data that we're using for it is limited in its actual empirical data. So what does it all mean? And it's very similar to what Brendan was presenting earlier on the water supply. You know, we're looking at fixture unit loadings, drainage discharge units, drainage fixture units, all the terminologies that we use. Gives us a number to size our pipes, gives us a number to size our vents. But what they don't actually give us is how they actually work and function as a high-rise building or anything over 34 meters. And so one of the issues that we've got in the industry is that we're building through urbanization, taller and taller buildings, more complex, more rollovers, offsets and systems for architectural needs. And we have different systems that we want to use and sizing of the system. So our buildings are getting, sometimes in New York, in Manhattan, we're getting the skinny towers. So we're getting less space to put our building services systems in. And when it comes to drainage, we get even tighter space allowed for these systems. So we want to reduce our systems. We want to have these systems so they're optimally working, space saving, and meet the demands of the building. So this research has been ongoing. And part of that research, we've been allowing the university access to our high-rise research center there, big tall tower, which was used for testing elevators. So it's 128 meters tall. And we've got the full operation of this tower, which we're using for fluid system testing. And we've installed a 90-meter story wet drainage system. But if we link the system up, we can actually do a 120-story building in wet and venting terms as well. So it's a really unique facility for testing drainage systems. Primarily, we are going to move into hot and cold and other roof drainage systems as well for testing through this year and the coming years as well. So it gives us the yes.
Sorry.
Yes.
If anyone's going on holiday to the UK and they want to visit, please reach out to me and we can facilitate. I know Sam, you've been at a great time. When Sam went, he had a great time. So if you're in the UK on a holiday, maybe you could write it off for tax. I don't know. You know, go and check out the lift tower.
Yeah, we've had about 600 consultant engineers from around the world to visit in the last few years. Obviously, COVID, we did it online. Yeah, but it's although we use it for product testing and evaluation, you know, it's good for the industry to come and see drainage systems working. But one of the things that we found also when we did the review is that there isn't a way of a system that you design once it's installed to be commissioned. How, you know, you design it and how does it actually operate? You know, if there's new systems or innovation that comes into it, how do you know that it's actually going to work once it's been installed? So looking at the Australian standards, pretty much, and I'm told that the only really contracted sort of test is they did a hydrostatic pressure test, which is only there to check leaks. Essentially, you fill it up with water, hold pressure for 5-10 minutes and make sure that the pressure doesn't drop and it's not leaking. But it doesn't give you a performance test of whatever system you're designing actually works. So what we've done, and we've been working from the research with HCAA in the UK, to working on a technical memorandum for high-rise building drainage, and so for sizing systems and tall buildings, and that should be published by HCAA as a technical memorandum for their update of Part G in the next couple of months. So it's going to give guidance on designing taller buildings, whichever system you want to design with. So it's not to a specific system, but it's for any DWV system that you're thinking of using. What size should you determine for the drainage stack? If you're using secondary venting, what size should that be for specifically tall buildings over 10 stories in height? And it goes all the way up to 100 floor buildings and above as well. So it sort of goes from 10 floors to 100 floors and above in its guidance. But we've also working on a commissioning test. So once you've designed the system, it's installed, a way to do a test to show that the system is actually functioning as you design. So this is what we're going to run through here. And because REVAS is commonly used in Australia, we're just going to show an example of the system test that we did with a REVAS system. So if we go swap the slide. So when we're looking at doing the system there is that we first need to wet the system. So you just run a flush in the system because there is a difference in flow between dry pipe and wet pipe. So if you do a couple of flushes first, it wets the systems up, you'll get to the performance of your drainage system through the frictional slip in the system. We introduce a discharge for 5 showers, just to give a baseline steady state flow rate of a continuous flow. And showers probably are the best ways of discharging to give you that initial continuous flow rate. But we've got to remember a drainage system is inherently not steady state flow, it's unsteady state flow. So you're never going to understand the drainage system's functionality just by turning on the taps, leaving it running, watching it for 10 minutes and saying, that's my system's, what's its working and what's its pressure. So give an example, and this is an example here. We have one of the European countries wanting to look at a procedure, and they were insisting on that they 100 DM pipe for 5 litres running continuously for 10 minutes because it's 5 litres a second flow rate for 100 DM pipe. But if you run that amount of flow rate down the drainage pipe for 10 minutes, you're using about 18,000 litres of water. And no building is using that amount of water at all. So again, it's not the steady state flow that we're looking at, but we're using that to build up to get the flow rates. And then we need to introduce unsteady state flow using WC discharges, because then that will build up. So in the examples I'm going to give, we put a baseline flow of using a showers or a steady state flow of 2 litres. Then we discharge a number of WCs till we get up to our 5.2 litres a second flow rate in this example that I'm going to run through. But if you have systems that have a higher flow rate, so if you have a 150, 160 millimeter pipe system, that's 18 litres, you would build up the flow rates in the same proportion till you get to that peak flow rate. So whatever system design or manufacturer's claim of design, you would run this test to their flow rate demands that they say they can achieve. And what we're going to look at is the way the test can be done, what the criteria is going to be, and how to do it. So you could do it without any tools at all through visual inspection. But what we tend to do is use data monitoring, pressure sensors here. And as you can see here, this is an example that we did in London recently in 20 Fenchurch Street, which is the walkie-talkie building. That's my colleague Tony. And this is just setting up the system. And you can buy these kits online, and I can share the kit that we use for that for a mobile device. Probably about an Australian dollars is probably an investment of about $4,000 to get the equipment. So you can actually just plug in sensors, do the discharges, and then you have the data readings there to get the measurements of the system pressures and flow rates, etc., within the system. Next slide, please. So what we've got installed in the National Lift Tower is we've got a number of systems, but essentially a 90-story building. They've got the layout there where we've got active floors where we can discharge. Within the system, we've got traditional venting, passive venting. So we've got 100 mil stacks with 50 mil vents, 75 mil vents, 100 mil vents. We've got the revas system. We have other solutions that AliAccess have within the group. But for what we're looking at here is a typical 100 DN, 100 millimeter pipe, 110 millimeters. And we're discharging the typical design flow rates of 5.2 liters a second at the base of the stack. And why I say it's at the base of the stack is that you never get a discharge of 5.2 liters from sort of the branches. It's the developed flow that happens at the base of the stack or an offset rollover in the system. And then we discharge the flushing by discharging 6-liter toilet flushes. And we time these flows that we can measure the peak positive pressure or the pressures in the systems at the base of the stack within the system. So again, the testing at the same time is meaningless. We've got to develop the flow so it adds up that it gets to the peak flow at the base of the stack or in a rollover or offset within the drainage system. Next slide. So you can click the videos to get them going. So just an example there, we're quite fortunate on the tower that we can automate the flush. So we can have we've got a control system there. So we don't have to have someone flushing the toilet physically. And then we can measure the discharge time, how long it takes to reach the base of the building and the flow that happens at the base there. And then we look at an understanding here of the terminal velocity of the system, the time that it gets there, the total flows. And then we look at how we would design this within the system. So every system has its own different performance curves, and you could get that calculation probably from the manufacturers like ourselves. And we're looking at the terminal velocity and the timing of how to lay out the system in this proposed test. We'll go to the next slide. So one of the important things is terminal velocity. So I'm not a clever man like Brendan before. I take this from the university, and this is a long-standing calculation there to understand our terminal velocities with the frictionals. And this was probably very looked into by the late Professor John Swarfield. And in academia, it's pretty much standard for DWV systems as the calculation for terminal velocities. As again, you don't really need to understand it there, but when we're looking at frictional slip, the yields in the system there, we know we need to understand what the terminal velocities of each of the systems are. Next slide, please. So what we're looking at here is how do we work out the discharge timing and the importance of height within the drainage systems. So what we're looking at here in this example is just a primary vented system. We're discharging at height, in this case 75 millimeters above the base of the stack, and we discharge our 6-liter toilets in there, and we generate a constant flow of 2 liters a second, representing the showers there. And the 6-liter toilets in discharge units to the EN works out at 1.8 liters a second, because it takes 3 seconds for the 6-litre toilet flush to discharge through the WC pan in the system. And what we're seeing here is that the terminal velocity from that discharge is about 3.5 meters a second, generated in meters a second, and that's generated in terminal distance of 1.8 meters. So literally within the discharge, before it reaches, if we've got a typical floor height of 3 meters, it's happening before it reaches the next connection that the waste is traveling at its terminal velocity for water. Now, obviously, if you have solids free fall in the middle of the pipe, and they will be moving at 6 to 15 meters a second. So they always arrive at the base of the offset or the base of the stack well before the water that's there that you're discharging. But in this case, we're just looking at the water velocity there. And then what we're looking at is if we're discharging from the top, how long does it travel from the top of the building to the base? So we work that out in this example here, that it's only taken 23 seconds to travel from the discharge point to the base of the stack. And then what we're looking at is the height, the velocity in the systems there. And then if we have secondary discharges to build up the flow rates to get to our 5.2 litres a second, we discharge at the higher points of the building, and then the second floor or third floor below that. So we know that at the base, we're getting the accumulated flow, in this example, 5.2 litres a second. Can we drop to the next pipe? Next slide. It's to say, it's the timing that we're looking at is the primary influence by the height. And again, this is where the codes don't really help us, because there isn't any stipulation in the performance of a system at height. And then we're looking at the terminal distance zones. So when it gets to terminal velocity, and then the discharge points that we're looking at. The delay between the flushes is a difference calculation, and the travel time. So there's a little bit of work, but once you've done it a couple of times, you start to build up when you need to start discharging the systems. And what we're looking at for the second flush in this example was 50 meters, so 25 meters below. It would take 15 seconds to reach the base of the stack. And therefore, we're looking at the velocities plus the terminal distances, and then the increase in velocity because we've got the discharge from above and the discharge below. And therefore, in this example, what we're doing is discharging the second WC 8 seconds after the first WC. So we're generating that flow of the unsteady flow with the 2 litre continuous flow that we're generating from the steady state flow in the system. Next slide. So the way that we do that, and we're quite fortunate, we've got a bespoke control system at the NLT, but if you're doing it on site, you just do it with a couple of colleagues and say, go on the radio to flush. So we flush WC1 at the start, and that's got the 2 litre a second flow rate that we've got going through that. Then we do the second discharge 5 seconds after that, and then therefore, sorry, we did flush the WC at 0 point, and then 5 seconds after that, we do the next WC, and then that generates the flow rate that we're looking at for the generation at the base of the stack. So if you have longer branches, you'd have to do a calculation of the branch lengths so you can get the timing going in. Let's go again for next slide. So the pass criteria is what we're looking at. And I know that in the latest NCC, you've got a pressure requirement that you need to look at, but there isn't a recommendation of how you measure that pressure. So again, this test could be helping the NCC recommendation on measuring the pressure levels. But what we need to know is that the pressure doesn't ever exceed 400 pascals of pressure, because if you get more than 400 pascals of pressure, air will start passing through water trap seals. So on the left, we've got the induced siphonage. So the air bubbles are going through the trap because it's going over 400 pascals, trapping the water and sucking it out. In the middle here, we've just got a toilet that's seeing the effects of the offset and the base of the stacks. And then on the right, we've got the positive transient, again, exceeding 400 pascals, where the air is coming from the system side to living space. So you can monitor the trap performance by visual inspection, or you can use pressure transducers to actually measure the pressure as well. And then obviously after the system test that you don't want to see, there's a loss of trap seal. So you don't want to lose more than 25% of the trap seal, or we start reducing the performance and the barrier that water trap seals. Or sometimes you can see it and hear it as well, where you can get gurgling, typically in floor traps, due to the negative pressure, or air bubbling. So that could be the positive pressure. So not always losing the trap seal, but you're breaching the trap seals. So again, the trap movement is an indication of pressure, but a better look at it is to actually use pressure sensors that you retrofit onto the system. Next slide. So what we've done here is it just rigged up the REVAS system, and we've done the testing with a PRL and without a PRL. So floor 15 is actually the elevator floor at the top, on the top right hand picture, which is 90 meters above. And then floor 14 is where we're discharging through the bucket here to generate our 2 litre a second flow rate in this example, to get our example of 15 showers running continuously. If you were doing on site, you would just put the 15 showers, the 5 showers on running, and the bottom right hand toilet is the next WC that we're flowing, and then the discharge at the base of the stack. So if you can just play the video again, because it's all timed. So we discharge the uppermost toilet. Sorry, we start our 2 litre second flow rate. Once that's generating at 2 litres a second, we discharge the first WC, then the second WC, and then we can see that all that water will be at the base of the stack. That gives us our flow rate that we're looking at here. And because REVAS is slightly different than straight pipes, we have a slightly different timing for the system. So the velocity in the REVAS system in our measuring is terminal velocity was at 2.7 meters a second instead of 3.8 meters a second if we had an equivalent of straight pipe, because of the offset nature through the REVAS fitting. So, and in an example, we had a REVAS aerator fitting every 3 meters within the stack. So go to the next slide. So what does that look like when we're measuring with pressure meters at the base of the stack? For the discharge that we did, we actually were quite surprised with the results. You can play the videos, Chris. Is that we're looking at the pressure regime. So the criteria is that we don't want to be above 375 pascals plus or minus. When we did the system test here, you can see the flow of water that we're discharging through. We were only getting plus or minus 25 pascals of pressure. So sort of well below the average of 25 pascals of pressure. So well below the threshold that the system performance or system pressure would affect the water trap seals. And that's with a PRL. So you can see the orange, yellow and gray lines. They were 3 tests that we did. So we repeated the tests. We averaged it out, and it's the average is what gives you the system performance, because you will get spikes. We can see the gray line about halfway through, exceeding 150 pascals, but that is very, very short. It's for essentially milliseconds that you would see that, and it doesn't actually affect the trap seals. So it's the average, and this is the advantage of using pressure sensors to actually gauge the system performance versus a visual inspection. If we do the next slide, we did the same test and we removed the PRL, and the PRL, just to clarify, was the same size as the stack. So it was 110 millimeter PRL. And what we can see, although the system performance is passing the criteria for 5.2 liters a second, we can see that it did have an impact by removing the PRL at the base of the stack. On the system. So if we had increasing flow rates above 5.2 liters a second, you could see that error could come to the point where you could get to the failure point. And primarily that's because a pressure relief line reduces the pressure around the base of the stack to the turbulent flow, and also on the offset. So the PRLs, just even with this 5.2 liters a second flow rate, having it and not having it has an impact on the design. So we're working further on making the procedure more user friendly for contractors. So we'll give tables with baseline terminal velocities for the different systems and for the different sizing, because obviously if you have a 60 millimeter pipe, your loadings are higher, your terminal velocities will be increased because of the less pressures in the pipe. So it would go from 3 meters a second, 3.8 meters a second to probably 6 to 6.8 meters a second. So your terminal velocities will increase. So we'll look to give a base guide and how to do the calculations. And that's work that we're doing at the moment. And then checking that with Harriet Watt as well for the different types of systems that are commonly available. But obviously, if there's new systems that are coming in as well, you know, it's a way of seeing it once it's installed that it meets the criteria that the system is functioning correctly. So that's my part, Chris. I'm done. Hand over to you.
I've just seen Paul pull out the hook to hook me off stage. So I've got a couple more slides to go through, but I won't, Paul, don't stress. If I haven't been to your office, if I haven't harassed you for a lunchtime presentation, please reach out and I'll do so. But just, does anyone have any questions for Steve? There's no one with their hands up, Steve, if you can't see. So all good?
All right. Okay.
All right, thanks.
Thanks, Steve. That was awesome, man. Can you take a round of applause for Steve and Chris?
Sorry, say again, Paul.
Nearly getting 9 o'clock here, and we was getting a bit restless. Steve White's a great speaker. Steve travels internationally. He's been to Australia a few times as well. I really recommend, maybe next time he comes across here, I don't know when it'll be, but we'll definitely get him down. He's a fantastic speaker. But has anyone got any questions? Because Steve is like the technical guru of drainage. He's the man. So if any, I think have we got Steve and Steve's email address? So or contact you? Awesome, and thank you, Steve, as well, because he's in the UK, and it's I think when we spoke earlier, it's about 7 or maybe 8 o'clock in the morning there at the moment. So he's sitting in his pajamas presenting right now. So thank you, Steve.
Yeah, no worries, guys.
Thanks, mate.
No worries. Cheers, Paul.
Thank you. Here we go. Alrighty, this is why everyone's here, right? For the lucky door prize. Look at this beauty. So hopefully this works. Oh, was there any questions online? No. I'm going to spin the wheel. Is it going to work? Wait a minute. No, it's spinning. I don't know how I do this, how I get it up there to prove that it's real. I did. It's spinning here. All right, I might need my assistant to come and help me here. Yeah, I don't want to. Hold on. How do I minimize this? What we've got here is a spinning wheel. Yeah, true story. Please help me, Emily. I just want to drag it across. How do I get rid of this?
Spinning.
Yeah, but I can do it, but I need to get that up on the screen so everyone can see.
Maybe they could just take our word for it.
All right, well,
But it's
no,
spinning,
because it
like
takes
a
the.
promise.
How do you get rid of this bumper?
You could
Can I
stop
hide
sharing
it?
and then share that.
Okay, I'm going to stop sharing.
Hang on one sec. Yeah, stop sharing
Stop sharing.
and then share a different page. Share the web page.
Where do you see that?
So go down here
Yeah,
and then go to
this
this
one.
one.
Is that working?
No,
No lies.
I really hope this is nice after all this.
Okay, I'm going to maybe I just stop sharing altogether.
Yeah, stop sharing altogether because it's not doing
Oh
anything.
no, share. Come on. Is that sharing?
No. I'm really not a good assistant.
Stop sharing. Minimize. Drag.
Oh yeah, then just make that big. Make a giant. Then
See, it's a true story, right? Now I can see it here. Are you ready to spin that wheel? We hear your enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Miss Strickland, come on, Darrington, your prize. Well done, mate.
Very much.
Responsible.
Alrighty, thank you very much, everyone. And thanks for all the presenters. Big round of applause for everyone. You can't see the presentation anymore, but I have got the additional slide here because, oh, you can't see it. Oh, that happened. Excellent. So I just want to re-emphasize what I was saying at the bottom. So just at the bottom here, Leon and Sean are your men, right? For the next templates that we're going to do. We're going to get out in Panama, we're going to get to Newcastle. So we really need your support. We want your support. We want this to work. Okay. So the guys are, we're going to meet and we're going to decide how we do this, and if it's going to be a couple of meetings this year or just one, or how that template's going to work. But that's going to happen and we'll keep you updated. So watch this space. Yep. Not yet. Not yet. It's being debated. Sean's debating Newcastle's going to be October. You heard it here first. Okay, and that's the other dates as well for Tassie, South Australia, and also Canberra as well. And don't forget about the World Plumbing Day on Friday if you're down that way, and get down there, and that'll be great. Alrighty, we're going to wrap it up. So thanks for everyone presenting today. Thanks for everyone coming out. If there was any suggestions, want to hear something a little bit different, or want to be part of this and be presenting up here, give us a shout. All right, we'll wrap it up, and thank you very much, and good night.